This is actually the absolute right time to put whatever encouragement and pressure we can on the State Department to fulfill our obligations to people at Camp Liberty. The things we agreed to do, we should do, and part of that letter that Senator Levin and Senator McCain and Senator Shaheen and I signed, you don't have to give your word as an individual, as a senator, as a governor. You don't have to give your word, but when you give your word as a country or in any other capacity, your word's only as valuable as your willingness to keep it. We made a commitment here. And frankly, my view is I think it was the right commitment, but more importantly, we made a commitment. And you know, in a democracy, in a world where people need to rely on what you say you're going to do, it is unbelievably important to do what you say you're going to do. Whether that's with Camp Ashraf, Camp Liberty, what we agreed to do with Ukraine, where we said, give up those weapons and we'll guarantee your territorial integrity, or with the MEK.
This afternoon, we will hear, as Senator Blunt said, from a number of distinguished former officials and foreign policy experts. Each will discuss the turmoil in Iraq and the growing influence of Iran, not just in Iraq, but across the region as well. It seems that whenever we look at the Middle East these days, the situation gets worse and worse. For the past few years, Prime Minister Maliki has betrayed the trust of millions of Iraqi citizens who elected him to represent the interests of all of Iraq. Instead, we have seen him consolidate power by retaining the key foreign, defense, and security ministries. We have seen him turn against the Sunni tribes, jailing and suppressing them, instead of incorporating them into the armed forces as he had promised. We've seen him threaten to imprison Sunni and Kurdish members of his own government, accusing them of terrorist activities. We've seen him violate the most fundamental human rights of the Iraqi people. We've seen him order the use of lethal force against unarmed, peaceful demonstrators. And we've seen him inflame sectarian tensions that have demoralized the Iraqi military and torn the country apart. Now, the Old Testament teaches us that if you sow the wind, you shall reap the whirlwind. And that has come to pass in Iraq. None of us believe that Iran is part of the solution here. Iran has no interest in helping Iraq, only in helping itself and spreading its influence inside Iraq and across the region. So we need to ask ourselves, why are we here today? The answer, my friends, is that we are here today to keep faith with these brave men and women at Camp Liberty. They are not discouraged. They are not accepting defeat. It is up to us to continue to honor them, to honor their sacrifice, to honor their dedication by rededicating ourselves to the task of continuing this fight. But not just because we want to keep faith, as important as that is. We want to rededicate ourselves because their fight is also our fight. They are fighting for an Iran where all its citizens can speak as they please, worship as they please, and vote as they please. They are fighting for an Iran where men and women have equal rights and where all people can live in freedom and with dignity. They are fighting for an Iran without nuclear weapons, that does not promote terrorism, and that is at peace with all of its neighbors. That is why we are here today, because their fight is a fight that we all believe in. And if we all believe, and if we all continue to fight, I'm confident that one day we will be celebrating in Tehran.
The United States commander at the time gave every person there, there was somewhat over 3,000 of them, a signed piece of paper which said that they were going to be protected people under the Fourth Geneva Conventions, and the United States would be responsible for making sure that happened. Over the 4 subsequent massacres, many of those people have died, usually bound, in some cases on hospital gurneys, clutching that piece of paper. That is why this is so important. It's not only about the 2,800 lives of Iranian dissidents who have been disarmed for 10 years and who have been espousing democracy and women's rights in Iran for 10 years. It is also about whether the greatest nation and the most powerful nation on the face of the earth will keep its word. And so far the answer has been no. We have not managed to keep our word. And I think that's the common ground that we share. We share the concern about human rights of innocent people who are being executed with using our weapons, and troops who are trained by us under the direction, of course, of Al-Quds, the Iranian special forces. And not only are they doing that, we are losing our stature as a great nation, because if great nations or great people don't keep their word, they don't remain great for very long. This notion that's being pushed by the Iranian government and was actually absorbed by our own media, shocking as it could be that it could ever be misled about anything, that somehow this is a big crisis and we should have some alliance because ISIS is a great danger to the United States. ISIS is a danger to the United States, but ISIS is not the reason that Iraq is, as I predicted when we invaded Iraq 10 years ago, falling apart. And it's already, in fact, de facto 3 separate countries. The borders have yet to be defined. The reason that ISIS got a toehold in Iraq has to do with Maliki's incompetence, and has to do with the fact that somehow the Americans to this day somehow believe that Maliki is the only person that keeps Iraq together. In fact, Maliki is the reason Iraq is falling apart. That is a fact. People's lives are at stake. Lots of lives are at stake. We're not just talking about the 2,800 people who are in Liberty, who we promised we would take care of. We're also talking about thousands and thousands of both Sunni and Shia and Kurdish civilians who are being victimized, but by the terrorist Shia militia who spent a great deal of their time, who Maliki has empowered, killing Americans when we were over there. What the hell is the matter with our foreign policy that we can't see this stuff? So we need to change our policies in Iraq. We need to work with the people who are interested in having a sensible, thoughtful civil society in Iraq, and that does not include Nouri al-Maliki. And the sooner we realize that, the better. There was a wonderful hearing today, and I want to thank the members of the House Foreign Affairs Committee who really roasted some of the State Department employees for their duplicity and inability to confront the facts, and for their willful endangerment of 2,800 innocent civilians. But this is much bigger than the State Department, the Department of Homeland Security, or immigration. This is now a challenge for the President of the United States. These negotiations have the possibility of endangering the 2,800 lives. They're already endangered. But should the Iraqi-Iranian alliance, this Shia-Iranian alliance, or the Maliki-Iranian alliance, to be fair about it, should that continue, and should we continue to turn a blind eye and support Nouri al-Maliki, if we do, I didn't mean we, should we, that wasn't a rhetorical question. If we continue to do that, the risk for the 2,800 people at Liberty goes up every single day. They are in a very dangerous situation. If something happens to those people, it will be a moral stain on the presidency of Barack Obama that he will not recover from. This needs attention from the president. Now, we've all written a letter to the president. We've written lots of letters. We get a lot of happy talk back, but we're not interested in talk. We're interested in action.